To the return of Charlie Robinson. And people always say, Shaun, how come you and Charlie have just got this great vibe going? Is it the cranial symmetry? Is it the chapters he wrote in The Octopus of Global Control about Cheney and Clinton? They're certainly up there, folks. And the link for that is in the description box. I've contemplated this, and it's just Charlie is just an authentic, good guy. He spent years researching the club, and he just radiates this positive energy because he is a bright light fighting these evil monsters in the darkness. And that really resonates with me and my viewers, Charlie, and we appreciate you coming back. It's been a little bit, but you're here now.
Thank you for having me. I'll tell you, my life changed 15 years ago when I realized I was in real estate and I didn't love it. It was okay, but I didn't love it. But I didn't feel like I was doing important work. I was mentioning a brand new conspiracy that I discovered, come across some rabbit hole I'd gone down. I mentioned it to my mom one day, and I was explaining it to her, and she goes, "This is really interesting. I mean, this is fascinating, all this stuff that you found. But what are you going to do with it? Do you have any plans to do anything with it?" And it was such an easy question, and I didn't have an answer for it. I never thought I had any sort of role in this, and I never intended to be a part of it. I was just interested in the topics. And after that real simple question, I thought, well, what would I do? You know, if I did have to play a part in this, what would I do? Could I make I love documentaries. Could I make a documentary? Well, maybe, but I don't really know what I'm doing. But what if I could write something? Maybe I could write something. And so I didn't tell anybody at all. And I just decided I would start writing and see how it felt. And I also didn't want to set any expectations, you know, hey, I'm writing a book, to tell all my friends. And then they ask me a year later, how's the book coming? And I go, well, I never finished it, you know, so I didn't want to do any of that. So I just quietly started writing. And about halfway into what turned out to be The Octopus of Global Control, I realized that I still didn't want to tell anyone what I was doing, not because I wasn't going to finish the book. I was sure I was going to finish the book, but halfway through it pivoted to, I don't want anybody to tell me to stop. And I don't want anybody to bring in, you know, facts, logic, and reason into this and go, why are you writing a book? Nobody knows who you are. Nobody's going to publish this book. This book is unpublishable. There's no way. And what are you going to do? Sell it to 10 people that you know? You know, there were a bunch of reasons why I shouldn't do it. And I knew that, and I didn't want to hear it. I just wanted to finish the book and put it out there and let the universe kind of take a hold of it. And of course, promote it myself, you know, going out and talking to people. And that's how it all kind of came about. So I didn't, you know, I'm not a classically trained writer. I'm not somebody that worked at the United Nations and has all this inside information or anything like that. I'm just a normal guy who was tired of being the sucker playing 3-card Monte, you know, the card game where everybody loses. I felt like I was losing that. I was working in real estate and in Las Vegas, and really it was gone up and it gone down, and I lost both my houses, and it was a mess. And I was in the industry and I couldn't see it. And I just felt like such a dummy for not being able to figure it out. And so I really wanted to learn about how money worked. And once I started doing that led me down a whole different rabbit hole. And I already knew 9/11 was nonsense. And I had read John Perkins' book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, back in 2007. So I was halfway there. So that's how I wound up in it. And maybe so if I seem authentic, it's because I am. I'm just a regular person like everybody else trying to make sense of this insanity. And you start pulling on some threads and it leads you into some weird places.
Charlie, and sadly, since we last spoke, an important member of the community of Epstein researchers and exposers and survivors has passed away, Virginia. You know, the day it happened, we had a lot of people on, and you know, it was really moving, the tributes to her. And there's all kinds of theories have formed because it's really suspicious, the sequence of events. What were your feelings when you first saw that in the news?
Initially, I felt bad for her family, for the people that have supported her. Of course, that's where my first thought went. But immediately after that was Virginia didn't kill herself. Like I can understand. It's a weird one to me though, because there is the Streisand effect as this concept that people have come to love, where you try, the more you try to you wind up bringing unwanted attention on something like this. That was a scenario where you're better off just leaving her alive. She's said enough. She's talked. Everybody knows who she is. But her meeting with an accident after she'd said, if anything happens to me, I'm not suicidal. I mean, there's a lot of people that have said the same things over the years. To me, that just draws unnecessary heat on this situation. So it seemed like a miscalculation to me. I mean, obviously, I don't want her to die at all, but even from their standpoint, that seemed like I don't know. It seemed like an unnecessary step in the process. Never surprised, unfortunately. The level that these people will stoop to is there's nothing that they won't do. But I was disgusted, and then I immediately started to think, well, since it happened, maybe this will be yet another component that will wake people up to, you see what we're talking about here? They will murder you for exposing these things. It doesn't matter if it's 20 years later, they'll come and get you. So I think that, for all of our tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theories that we talk about, I mean, sometimes you just have to say, well, what do you make of that, man? Like, explain this to me. These people that keep saying they're not suicidal and then they wind up dead, and they're all part of this network. So it's getting tougher and tougher for people to be dismissive of this and to say, oh, these things happen, or, well, you don't know, maybe she was depressed. I mean, at some point you go, how many bodies do we have to pile up before you figure it out? How many Mark Middletons have to hang themselves and shoot themselves in the chest with a shotgun, it's before you go, these people are being murdered. They're not suicidal. If they were suicidal, if you were suicidal,
Charlie, we got to say unalive. YouTube has a problem with that word. Yeah.
Oh, do
let's
they?
Say unalive themselves. Let's say
unalived. Yes, if she would do that again. Why not in the heat of it? Why not when this is 20 years after the fact, you've worked out your problems, you're on the road to recovery, you're feeling better about yourself. That's not the time to do it. It goes back to our conversations about the Epstein thing. It's like, when you've still got outs, if you look at this as a poker hand, you've still got some outs. There is no need to fold your cards early on this, especially when you're as connected as somebody like he was. I could understand, we've talked about this, how we could understand if he'd come back to his cell after getting a 30-year sentence and it looks bleak and it feels like the walls are closing in, then I understand. But you haven't even gone to trial yet. This is out of sequence. It doesn't make sense. And so the Virginia component of this feels the same way. It's out of sequence. If you're going to unalive yourself, you do that when you're in the midst of your depression, not 20 years after the fact, after you're on the road to recovery. So but again, it goes back to, when you have very important information about dangerous people, there are three choices you can make. You can say nothing about it forever and take it with you to the grave. You can come right out and lay it all out on the table, go on camera, spit it all out, tell them everything there is to know. Or you can do the third thing, which is the most dangerous thing, which is tease the information. Say, I have information and I might put it out at some point. That is the worst strategy of all. That is the one that will wind up with people coming to your funeral. So if you're somebody in a position with information that is extremely damaging, don't tease it, because it lets them know that you've got it and that you might put it out, and it gives them enough time to take care of you. Whereas there's no sense diffusing a bomb after it's already gone off. When you make the video, the full confession, everything, you lay it out and you put it out there, well, it's out there, you know? So with these whistleblowers, it's, there is a bit of a strategy to it as well. And unfortunately,